Morning, everybody. I bring regrets from my Deputy Minister, Win Young, who was not able to join us today as she was the scheduled speaker. Pleased to be here as we look forward to Canada 150. And I think what we have on the screen, we should have anyways, is just a kind of a looping few pictures of the Saskatchewan Pavilion at the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver. Of course, the 150th anniversary will be exciting to celebrate. It's an honor to be asked to speak alongside many great Canadians today. Speakers are taking a look at some big ideas or a big story and something that will inform, inspire, and perhaps even incubate some discussions. Well, for me, there is one important story to tell, and that's the Saskatchewan Experience, and hopefully some of you were able to get out to Vancouver in February of 2010. Part of our ministry's mandate, the Ministry of Parks, Culture and Sport, is to celebrate and build pride in Saskatchewan. So with that in mind, we made a plan back in 2008, 2009 to go to Vancouver and to tell the world about our great province, Saskatchewan. First thing was securing a site on the shores of Falls Creek, the location that was projected to be the area of highest pedestrian traffic during the games, and if you're out there, you'll probably recognize the site. Of course, it was an expensive land lease to sign, and downtown Vancouver was not a cheap place to be in 2010. We hired a group called BC Event Management for some site construction and management of the pavilion, and certainly we're very happy to have them on board. And of course, that was also relatively expensive. Then we started taking a look at programming. How do we tell that Saskatchewan special story to the rest of the world and to the rest of Canada and to all the people gathered in Vancouver? We had to figure out the best way to tell the story and how to showcase our province. We had to be informative, that was important, but we had to have some fun. We wanted to tell the people about Saskatchewan's growing population, strong GDP. We wanted to tell them this is a great place to invest, great place to live. We didn't want to bore them with numbers all of the time. We wanted to show them that Saskatchewan was a great place to raise a family. We tried to do both things. We got some people together to kind of brainstorm what this should be. We decided 2 venues, all in one footprint in one site. You could learn about the economy of Saskatchewan in one of the areas, and in the other one, you would experience some great Saskatchewan entertainment, fried pierogies, beer, and Saskatoon berry tarts, which were very, very popular. To be honest, when we did some of the planning, we didn't exactly know what to expect. Many months were spent preparing. We met weekly, sometimes more than that. We felt the heartache about how much this would cost. The politicians, the cabinet ministers were feeling that as well. In fact, there was a few times where we just thought, well, we just maybe couldn't go forward with this project. There was no guarantee as to how it would be received in Vancouver. We didn't know for sure how many people we'd have actually walk through the doors. So, after a few sleepless nights, actually many sleepless nights, the pavilion opened in Vancouver. It was the great moment of truth. On the first day of the games, about 45 minutes before the pavilion was to open, one of the team members called the pavilion manager, said, "You have to come and see this." I was there at the time with then Minister of Tourism, Parks, Culture and Sport, the Honourable Dustin Duncan, and we sat there and like, oh, this is bad. Has to be bad. Had the large projection sphere deflated, that would be bad. Maybe something else wasn't ready. Some last minute detail. But actually, it was good news. People were lining up at lunchtime to try and get into the pavilion, which opened later in the afternoon. So, a very good problem. We had created a 6-story translucent inflatable sphere, and you've seen some of the pictures rolling by, which projected iconic images of our province to the world in Vancouver, and there's a good picture of it there. Inside the dome, you could actually walk inside the bottom of it, and we call that the Saskatchewan Experience. So what was there were a collection of Saskatchewan factoids. Those kind of went through the screen on a loop, and they were to teach the world about our economy, our resources, our tourism opportunities, and of course, our quality of life. One hit of the inside of that part were two RCMP officers, and there always was two RCMP officers there. They were dressed in their full red serge, and they were greeting people as they came through the door. And they were quite a hit with a lot of people from outside of our country. They were, of course, able to take pictures with guests, and many of you probably know that every RCMP officer actually was a Saskatchewan citizen at one point, because they train in a depot division in Regina, and so they are actually great ambassadors. They all could actually speak quite well about what Saskatchewan was and tell that great story. The other part that happened inside that dome was something called the green screen, and maybe many of you have seen green screens before. Tourism Saskatchewan actually operated the green screen, so at any point you could have your picture taken, and you could dress up in some football equipment and have your picture taken with Taylor Field in the background. Or you could be inside a potash mine and dress up like a potash miner. You could go fishing in northern Saskatchewan and hold a very, very large northern pike if you wanted to. And so what that did was that got people very interested in what Saskatchewan had to offer, and it drove people back to the Tourism Saskatchewan website where they could actually go and recover their picture at a later date. Beside the dome was the entertainment center, a more traditional large white rectangular tent with food, music, posters of spectacular scenery from all across our amazing province. So we told the story. On the first day of the games, we were filled to capacity. We were probably over capacity, but please don't tell the fire marshal that. Don't know what the statute of limitations is on that one anyways. We used over 100 volunteer hosts. Many of those people were Saskatchewan citizens at one point. Many of them had moved to Vancouver. Some people actually just said, you know, I'm going to be out there for the Olympics and I'd love to come and volunteer at your pavilion. How do I do that? So we had, there's a picture of the RCMP officers at the pavilion. So we had a lot of people come and volunteer to be hosts inside the pavilion, inside the different venues, and also outside just kind of visiting with people as they were lining up and waiting to get into the pavilion. So the opening ceremonies, the chairs were filled, people were standing around the perimeter, many people sat on the beautiful green carpet there and looked up at the big screen. Together, the crowd of nearly 600 stood together to sing our national anthem with a huge amount of pride. They sang it with strong voices, they sang it with pride. Then, together, those 600 people and millions of people across Canada let out a roaring cheer as Team Canada entered BC Place. That cheer, of course, echoed through the streets of Vancouver, the living rooms of many Canadians, and I'm sure we all experienced that. That's that inspirational story that the Canada 150 can be, I believe. A few more things about the pavilion. It really did exceed all of our expectations that we had for it. For 17 days, through rain and shine, weekend or weekday, visitors lined up to see what our province had to offer. Our counter showed that we had more than 120,000 people pass through the gate. During the second night of the pavilion, Minister Duncan and I were visiting people in line. We wanted to go out there and just kind of see why were people lining up so late at night on a cold February night to get into this place to see. They were sharing all kinds of different stories with us, and some of them actually were kind of getting ready to pay the entry fee, and we said, well, there is no entry fee, and they said, wow, what a great deal. Some of them, of course, pulled out a 20 and they said, well, can I actually move to the front of the line? And we said, well, we'll do something a little better for you. We'll give you a Saskatchewan Pavilion pin, which became very, very popular. And we said, just enjoy the show that's projected on the dome and learn a little bit about Saskatchewan, and I'm sure your time in line will pass very, very quickly. A columnist from the Edmonton Sun said that our pavilion was friendly and inviting. Leader Post called our pavilion the hot ticket and the belle of the ball. Wall Street Journal stopped by, described our pavilion as a fabulous white party tent, and wrote that it had everything for the discerning hockey fan that they could ever need. So those 2010 games were an incredible experience. I'm proud to say that they have left a lasting legacy in Saskatchewan. We had corporate and municipal partners that helped us out through this. Legacy funds were created back in Saskatchewan to help amateur sport culture and recreation. Tourism Saskatchewan continues to use that green screen at different events that they host. A quote from a volunteer who actually helped us out on that day, his name is Glenn. Glenn says, "It was an absolutely awesome experience to be able to represent Saskatchewan at the pavilion. I know that Saskatchewan left a great, lasting impression on the Olympic visitors." So anytime we can bring the country together, like the Vancouver Olympics did, and feel that collective sense of pride, it is indeed a special experience. Something that is coming up in 2017, and something that I work with in my job, is in 2017, the Canada Summer Games will be held in Winnipeg that year. It is the 50th anniversary of the Canada Games that year, so I think that will tie in very, very nicely with the 150 celebrations across Canada that year. I know for some of us, the ingredients that made this Saskatchewan Pavilion a success were lots of hard work, attention to details, engaging volunteers whenever possible, assembling the right team to deliver the project, keeping in mind that our audience was, well, they wanted to have a lot of fun, learn a little bit about Saskatchewan. They really wanted to celebrate together. Try to anticipate that things sometimes get out of your control. Next door to us, the Quebec Pavilion was created without a roof. And if you're ever in Vancouver in February, roofs are sometimes important. And so they experienced a few days of some very, very low attendance there. And just let the magic take over whenever your event gets planned. Our Olympic experience was a moment of pride for our ministry, for our province, for our citizens, and for our country. We look forward as a province to the great celebration that will be coming up in just 4 short years. Thank you.